15 years ago, Prince Oscar was cursed by a witch. Since then, he's been doing all he can to break the curse, and now he's on his way to the Azure Tower, home of the Witch of the Azure Moon. He plans to ask her to lift the curse. If that fails, he'll find the one responsible, the Witch of Silence. But for now, he steps into the Azure Tower. He has to overcome a number of challenges to get to the top and have a wish granted by the witch. The first test is to solve an impossible math problem while being surrounded by snakes. Fortunately, the snakes are not venomous. Plus, the problem isn't impossible anymore. They solved it about 10 years ago. So, just like that, he passes the first test. Meanwhile, the witch gets word that they have their first challengers in a while. She says they might be making steady progress now, but most don't get past the first guardian beast. And then we cut to Oscar easily defeating this first guardian beast. He even says it was a good warm-up. They're halfway up the tower now. This is when Oscar reveals that the last person to make it to the top was his great-grandfather, about 70 years ago. Back then, a group of 10 men started the climb, but only the king reached the top. Oscar finds this surprising because so far, the climb has been pretty easy. Next, he steps into the room of the final bosses, who are two gargoyles that come to life and attack him. But once again, he beats them with ease. However, when he does, the floor crumbles and his friend falls down the tower. But now is no time to mourn, so he enters the witch's room, which is a disaster. You can tell she hasn't had anyone over in 70 years. Anyways, the witch has prepared tea for the occasion. She introduces herself as Tinashe and tells him that his friend is sleeping down at the bottom, uninjured. Then he introduces himself. Upon hearing his last name, Tinashe recognizes him as a descendant of the last man who climbed the tower. She says they kinda look alike, but the king had a gentler face and was less manly than Oscar. Oscar then asks about the fate of the challengers who never make it back. She says she makes sure no one dies. The instant a fatal blow is about to land, you get sent to the ground floor. Then your memories are slightly tweaked and you're transported to random parts of the mainland. However, for challengers who come for a noble reason like healing their child's illness or something, she grants their wishes even if they fail. But enough chatter, it's time for him to state his wish. He shares how he and his father were cursed by the Witch of Silence to never again beget an heir. Their blood will eat away at any womb it touches. Their bloodline ends with them. Oscar never asked his father about why they were cursed, but it seems to be connected to his mom, who died immediately before. The witch explains to him that there's no surefire way to remove a curse. This is because curses don't adhere to the usual rules of magic. When you create a curse, you infuse arbitrary words with a meaning you assign, along with magical power. So it varies depending on who casts it. Sometimes, if the method to break the curse isn't specified when it's cast, not even the caster can undo it. What's more, he hasn't been struck with a curse, but a variant of what you might call a blessing. These are cast in the same way as curses but are stronger. His blessing tries to protect any unborn child with an extremely powerful force, making it impossible for a normal mother to bear. This blessing is incredibly well crafted, so Tinashe can't undo it. However, she will help him find a woman who can withstand the child's protective power. But my boy Oscar has a better idea. He starts spitting game to Tinashe, asking if she can withstand that power. When she says she can, he says that his wish is that she leaves the tower and becomes his wife. But she refuses, saying that if she granted wishes like that, she'd be his grandma by now. Regardless, Oscar asserts that even if his great-grandfather gave up, he's his own man. It's got nothing to do with him, but she still doesn't accept. That's when Oscar remembers that she lived in the castle for 6 months 70 years ago, teaching magic. So he now asks her to leave the tower and live with him for 1 year. She has no objections this time and accepts his offer. He probably intends to use that year to raise her up. Actually, he starts hitting on her right from the journey home. Once inside the castle, she uses magic on him to negate all physical and magical harm. Given their agreement, it's the least she could do. However, he remains open to harm from poison and mental attacks. We find out that she's posing as an apprentice mage within the castle. She chats with some folks in the palace, asking if Oscar is the only remaining royal who can provide an heir, given Oscar's apparent desperation to find an heir. They tell her that about 15 years ago, there were cases of babies disappearing around the kingdom. It was then that all of Oscar's cousins went missing, so there are no royals left who are younger than him. A bit later, she watches a sparring match between two soldiers. That piques her interest and she decides to have a go at it after so long. She fights against the strongest general in the kingdom and she wins. Right after, her assistant comes to share some news. And next thing we know, she's all geared up for battle. She lets Oscar know that she'll be away for 3 days. He asks her to at least tell him where she's headed. She replies she's going to a magical lake. There are significant bursts of high magical power going on there. She's going to find out who's behind it and what they're plotting. After a lengthy discussion, he persuades her to let him accompany her along with some competent soldiers. On their way to the lake, Tinasha begins explaining the lore. 70 years ago, a nearby nation attacked their kingdom. As their kingdom repelled their invaders, the enemy unleashed their giant magic weapon, a demonic beast. The beast laid waste to foes, allies, and the land itself. In the end, she managed to seal the beast away. At that moment, a mage from that enemy nation shows up in front of them. He recognizes Tinasha from the war 7 decades ago and refers to her as the Witch of the Azure Moon, stirring up a fuss among her companions. She threatens to kill him, so he retreats from there, but not before attacking the soldiers. He manages to wound some of them, and we witness Oscar's spell at work, as he remains unscathed despite being hit. After the commotion, Tinasha apologizes to everyone for keeping the fact she was a witch a secret. She didn't want to startle anyone. Oscar decides they're going to retreat for now to gather forces and arm themselves, but Tinasha says she's going after that mage, because now that they're onto them, they'll try to undo the seal as quickly as possible. Oscar wants to go with her at all costs, but she assures him that as his protector, she will always come back to him, regardless of her actions or whereabouts, and she won't die before him. So she mounts her dragon. He tells her that they should get married when she comes back, but she tells him that's not happening and that he shouldn't jinx himself like that. Next, she arrives at the mage's lair and kills them all before they can unseal the beast. Then, she releases the beast herself. She's set on slaying it this time. The battle is intense as the beast can heal really fast. While she's charging up her ultimate attack, the fucking wolf bites off her abdomen. Despite this, she manages to kill it, and then her dragon takes her back to the castle. Her wound looks really bad, but in time she patches herself up. She even has the energy to throw a pillow at Oscar when he walks in on her naked. Once she's decently dressed, Oscar thanks her for saving the kingdom from that beast, and she says it's the least she could do, being a witch and all. And that's where the episode wraps up. Thanks for watching this video. Hit subscribe so you won't miss out on the next part. See ya!